At 61, Brad Pitt, Hollywood's eternal golden boy, finally lets his silence break. For years, he's been the symbol of charm, grace, and quiet strength. But behind the calm exterior of one of America's most beloved actors lies a list that no one expected. 5 names that shaped, betrayed, and defined him. According to insiders, Pitt never meant for the list to become public. It wasn't about revenge, said one longtime friend. It was therapy, the only way he could make sense of what fame had taken from him. From broken love to shattered trust, each name carries a story of loss, ego, and survival. Because even the man who seemed to have everything, beauty, talent, success, learned that Hollywood takes more than it gives. And now, as he turns 61, Brad Pitt is ready to tell the truth. Let's begin with number 5. Number 5, Quentin Tarantino. When Once Upon a Time in Hollywood united Quentin Tarantino and Brad Pitt, fans called it a masterpiece. On screen, it was flawless. Off screen, it was fire and ice. Insiders described the collaboration as brilliant but brutal. Tarantino's intensity drained everyone, one crew member said. Brad kept it cool until he couldn't. The conflict wasn't about ego, but about control. Tarantino wanted every frame to bleed his vision. Brad wanted to explore, to breathe inside the scene. He said Quentin directed like God, a friend revealed, and Brad wasn't built to worship. The tension climaxed during editing when Tarantino cut an entire sequence Pitt had fought to keep. He didn't complain, just walked away. The film won Oscars, but their friendship didn't survive the applause. Years later, Pitt would say quietly, "Some geniuses burn too bright. You just learn not to stand too close." Number 4, Gwyneth Paltrow. They were the golden couple of the 90s, young, beautiful, unstoppable. Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow seemed like Hollywood's perfect love story. But perfection, as always, hides the cracks. Behind the red carpet smiles, there was pressure, from studios, from fame, from expectations too heavy for 2 young hearts. When their relationship ended, Gwyneth called it the right decision. Brad never spoke. Insiders said the breakup left him reeling. He didn't hate her for leaving, one friend shared. He hated what it did to him. It made him doubt love. Years later, when Gwyneth revealed Brad once stood up to Harvey Weinstein to protect her, it reopened old wounds. He became the hero in her story, but she was no longer part of his. To this day, he speaks of her with warmth, but the silence between them still says everything. Number 3, Tom Cruise. When Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise shared the screen in Interview with the Vampire, it was supposed to be magic. 2 of Hollywood's biggest stars in one film. Instead, it became a quiet war. "They couldn't be more different," said a crew member. Brad was introspective, patient. Tom was pure intensity. Every scene was a battle for air. Cruise thrived on control. Pitt thrived on authenticity. In interviews years later, Brad admitted, "Tom bugged me. There was this competition vibe that I couldn't stand." Rumors spread that they refused to speak off-set, that even their rehearsals became power plays. After the film, they never worked together again. When asked why, Pitt smiled faintly. "Some people act to connect, others act to win." It was the most polite way he could ever say it. But everyone understood exactly who he meant. Number 2, Harvey Weinstein. For Brad Pitt, the name Harvey Weinstein represents everything wrong with Hollywood. Long before the scandal broke, Brad already knew who he was dealing with. In the late 90s, when Pitt was dating Gwyneth Paltrow, Weinstein allegedly harassed her. Brad confronted him in public. He grabbed him by the collar and said, "If you ever touch her again, I'll kill you," one witness recalled. It became legend. The day Brad Pitt stood up to a monster everyone else feared. Years later, when the truth finally surfaced, Pitt refused to say, "I told you so." Instead, he quietly donated to organizations supporting survivors. He hated Harvey, an insider confirmed. Not just for what he did, but for what he represented. Because in a town built on silence, Brad Pitt was one of the few who dared to speak before the world was ready to listen. Number 1. Angelina Jolie. It began as a love story that consumed the world. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, 2 stars, 1 spark that burned too bright. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie became Hollywood's most powerful couple, and, eventually, its most tragic. For years they built an empire. Children, films, humanitarian work. But fame doesn't protect love. Behind the cameras, arguments turned into silence, and silence turned into war. When their marriage ended, it wasn't just a divorce. It was an earthquake. Custody battles, accusations, headlines that never stopped. "She made him a villain," said one longtime friend, and he never fought back. Brad once said quietly, "You can love someone with everything you have and still lose yourself in the process." That was the truth behind the story the world thought it knew. Because in the end, what he hated most wasn't her. It was what they became together. But here's what the headlines never understood. That list, the so-called 5 names he hated the most, wasn't a record of bitterness. It was a record of lessons. One night, a friend found Brad sitting alone on his patio, a glass of wine untouched beside him. On a napkin, 5 names written in neat, careful handwriting. At the bottom, a single line. "I don't hate them. I hate what they made me realize about myself." Quentin taught him how art can be control disguised as genius. Gwyneth reminded him that love doesn't always mean forever. Tom showed him that competition kills connection. Harvey revealed the monsters fame protects. And Angelina, she taught him that even love, when poisoned by pride, can destroy everything pure. It wasn't confession, it was closure. The way a man finally makes peace with the ghosts that made him human. Now, at 61, Brad Pitt lives differently. He's not chasing box office glory or the next award or the illusion of perfection anymore. He spends more time painting, sculpting, traveling quietly, trying to understand peace after a lifetime of noise. Friends say he's become softer. "He used to fight every battle," one of them said. "Now he just lets silence win." The world still sees him as the star, the symbol of beauty and calm. But those who know him understand that calm was earned, built from heartbreak, regret, and endless self-repair. He no longer runs from the pain those 5 names caused him. He carries them, like pages from a book he's finally finished reading. "Forgiveness," he once said, "isn't about them. It's about setting myself free." And maybe that's the real story. Not the hate, not the drama, but the grace that came after. Because in the end, Brad Pitt didn't survive Hollywood by staying flawless. He survived by finally admitting that even the most golden hearts still bleed.